And we're now recording. My name is Jamie Williams from Gerald Thomas, and today joining me on the podcast is Tudor Barber. He's the owner and director of Street Food Warehouse.
Hello, Jim. How are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Yourself?
Yes, yeah, well, thank you.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the guests and explain what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a director and owner of Street Food Warehouse, as Jamie said. We run a series of street food festivals across the UK, along with providing sort of consultancy and management services to third-party events and clients. So but on the background of street food, which many of you may be familiar with now, it's kind of a bit of a phenomenon which kind of came back from people backpacking and travelling in the Far East, came back, and it was a bit of a concept which was quite unique to the current dining situation in the UK. So people saw how different cultures were eating on the streets in sort of India, Malaysia, places like that, and started to adopt those processes back at home. So for the last sort of 10, 11 years now, so the street food scene's been ever growing and ever evolving. It kind of the wave kind of came out of London through Bristol and into South Wales. We did our first street food event in 2014, and that's how we started Street Food Warehouse. The idea is a one-stop shop for street food. Whether it's events, you can come and eat with us, or we can assist in providing street food to any given location.
And give us an example of some of the events you've put on. I'm sure most people have been to them.
Yeah. So closest to you would be Swansea Street Food Festival. That would have been into its fourth year now, had it not been for the COVID-19 crisis. But very successful event with Swansea. We normally have about 24 to 26,000 people there over the course of 3 days. But over the last 4 or 5 years, we've now expanded to 12 events, predominantly across Wales and the southwest. So we've got Pembrokeshire, Dorset, Devon, Somerset, Cornwall, Sussex, Kent. Really stretching those out now. Some of those are into their sort of 6th year. Some of those, are just starting out. So it's really snowballed as we've grown over the last 4 years quite organically.
Yeah, definitely. I've been to the last few Swansea ones, and I was a bit gutted when this one was obviously cancelled for obvious reasons. But I suppose the sort of the growth of that industry. What do you think? Like you said, this come from first at the Far East, and then obviously through the bigger cities, and it's filtered its way down to regional areas. Why do you think people love it, don't they? And why do you think people love it so much as opposed to the traditional seated restaurants?
Yeah, well, our background was the music industry and attracting people to events for the purposes of music. But we couldn't understand the phrase of everybody's got to eat. So, we don't need to be booking the right DJ on the right day and make sure people have got money in their back pocket to be able to attend. If we can put on an event where there's something for everyone, accommodating every dietary requirement, and can also make it free of charge to attend, why wouldn't you turn up? And if you don't like it, you can easily walk away.
Absolutely. And I suppose what I like about it is you've got all these different foods that you can try, but it's not one kitchen that's trying to diversify and do lots of different things well. It's focusing on sort of one product and doing it really, really well. So when you go to that truck that they are focusing on that particular type of food, and then it's going to be good off the back of that.
Yeah, that's it. Every trader that we work with is an independent business. Some of our larger events will have anything up to sort of 32, 34 traders. Each one of those is a different company, which is run by different characters, and that can be quite challenging in sometimes. But the understanding of doing one thing well is really the mantra for a good quality street food product. We ensure there's no competition between our street food traders as well. So if you're doing a certain cuisine, there will only be one of those cuisines at the event. So it gives a lot of option for the customers, non-competition between the traders. But we like to be able to complement food. So you could have your main meal, could be a Mexican taco or a stone-baked wood-fired pizza. But then you could also be going to a topped Belgian fries trader and then finishing that off with a brownie or a donut from a local bakery. So we really like to kind of spread things over. The biggest complaint we have is why don't people do samples, because they get too full on one item. But I suppose that's the joy of sharing street food with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And on an average weekend, how many of those traders do you end up eating from?
Well, we call it the street food stone, and I suppose one of the benefits of COVID-19 hitting us is that I haven't put that on just yet. But yeah, we do end up eating a hell of a lot of street food. I could go through eight portions or something a day very easily.
So eight per day over the course of 3 days, and
Over the course,
try every single one.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you find yourself thinking, "Oh, I couldn't eat another thing," and then particularly when the traders are closing up for a day and they're bringing over their leftover food, all of a sudden you find you've just eaten another foot-long slice of pizza or another shish kebab, and there was no need for it, but you've done it anyway.
Well, you've got to enjoy it while you're there, and they don't they
Of course,
don't happen every single weekend.
yeah, of course.
I suppose we're going to get on to talk a little bit about the impact of COVID-19, the lockdown. So obviously, lots of talk in the media about one of the hardest hit industries is the food, the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
What impact so far have you seen on the marketplace?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely colossal. It's been decimated. I think the move by or the announcement by the government to say they wouldn't be closing pubs and restaurants and bars, but strongly advising everybody against going anywhere near them. Near them was just suicide. That just threw the whole industry under a bus. That advice was extended for a week before then the actual lockdown came into effect on the 23rd of March. Like every business, it's been affected. I think there's only a very few businesses which have been affected by this. But then I think there's a lot of industries who feel they've been hit the first, hit the hardest. But I do feel hospitality and leisure and tourism industries are all the ones who will be last to get back to normal. And so whilst they may not have been hit the hardest initially, certainly the ramifications for that will continue for a long time. So operating in the hospitality industry, from hosting events, but then also the leisure aspect, relying on disposable income for people to be able to attend our events and spend with us, and also the tourism industry as well. The USP of our events is taking this urban street food concept and putting it to the British seaside and these local sort of resorts, and that's what works really well for us. And if we can't travel, we don't have there are limited locals, but people can't travel, we don't have a fan base and a customer base, and these events still aren't going to go ahead.
Yeah, and unfortunately as well, the timing of it, because it's often in May that the Swansea Street Food Festival happens, and around spring, early summertime is when quite a lot of these take place, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, we spend our autumn and winter months planning for the events. These events will take 6 to 8 months to plan, liaising with councils. Every council is different. There's a variety of red tape, licenses, applications which need to go in, consultancy periods, advisory group meetings which need to be attended. So there's a hell of a lot of work which goes into it. And in fact, we had launched Swansea Street Food Festival the week before lockdown hit. So it was announced, can't wait for Swansea Street Food, and then bang, it all happened.
Yeah, and with the lockdown situation and all the government support options have been made available to businesses, how important have they been to your business? And so if what would worst case scenario, if these things weren't available, if these support options weren't available, the outcome would be then?
That's right. I mean, if these things hadn't been available, we wouldn't be here now. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Is the stark reality of it. From an economic support perspective, the government have done well. I think immediately the announcement of the job retention scheme, it had to be done. I mean, I even had to furlough myself for the initial 2 months because there was no work. It stopped, apart from emails coming in asking if the events were going ahead, and us saying that we've just gone into sort of pause mode at the moment. We'll be back in touch when we can. So yeah, from that aspect, it was okay. I applied for a coronavirus business interruption loan with our bank. I'm still yet to receive a reply as to what happened to that application, which was rather frustrating. The bounce back loans, or rather the government, the rateable grant loans from business rates, we actually found out that our landlady had not registered our business premises as a commercial premises. therefore it didn't have a business rates reference number, and we couldn't apply for the rates relief grant, which was rather frustrating. It has been now, I'm pleased to say. I've contacted the valuation office myself and put that in. But yeah, we had access to the Economic Resilience Fund instead, and that had been received. And we've also then taken a bounce back loan as well, which yeah, based on the quarter of the turnover of the business, I mean, we had to refund £10,500 worth of paid pitch fees last month for events that are no longer going ahead. So had those funds not been available, we would certainly be struggling. Yeah, and question whether we would still be here now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, from our point of view, seeing the range of different clients that we've got and the support options that they have taken, yeah, without this stimulus from the government, then you know, a lot of businesses that we're talking to probably would have had to shut up shop and liquidate, and then that would have had further implications down the line. Then, so when things start opening back up, at least now, even though it's sort of it's an artificial propping up the economy, at least those businesses are still alive and they're still able to trade. So when everything starts to ease and the economy gets back to normal, they'll still be there to get everything moving forward again. And I suppose shameless plug time is what you know, give us an idea of what you thought of how we've sort of helped you through this.
Yeah, so we've been a client of Gerald Thomas now for about 3 years with this business, and yeah, the support from Gerald Thomas has been good. There's been sort of very clear communication from the start. I think from a small business owner perspective, and this, you know, we could never have planned for this. This all of a sudden happened, and it was a complete rabbit in the headlights scenario. So. Yeah, Gerald Thomas with the regular updates and the newsletters have been very clear and understanding. The fact that you've been able to sit in and understand and process the information received by the government, which isn't necessarily clear all the time, and kind of divulging that into clear sort of messaging which has been sent to us has been great. The handling of the furlough scheme and that has been very smooth and swift as well. So we do feel looked after by Gerald Thomas.
I appreciate that. Plug over now. Yeah, like you said there, the information coming through from government. You know, we get the information the same time as everyone else does. We then have to use our knowledge of the background of the way tax and accountancy works and how that's going to apply to businesses. I mean, in certain circumstances, I've actually had messages, texts, or emails from clients sort of during the talks that Rishi was giving. And, you know, I've had to say, look, you know, give me a couple of hours to dissect the information. You know, he didn't. I don't have his number. He didn't call me before that to tell me what he was
I'll just text him now. 2 seconds.
Yeah. Sort of moving away from the support options, what I've seen, and something which is a really, really good thing to see across the board, not just in this industry but in others, is the adaptability and the resilience of UK and particular Welsh businesses. And I know we've spoken about some of the things that you guys have done to sort of just pivot the offering a little bit, for enabling you to sort of to do some form of trading as we're in lockdown. And do you want to give a bit of background on what we've done there?
Yeah, certainly. So obviously with the events being off the cards for the foreseeable, we're really hoping we can still do a couple of events at the tail end of this year. However, we've just had to really put emphasis on our sort of consultancy side of things. So we've been in talks with a number of different premises, in particular a chain of shopping centres at the moment, who are looking to convert their traditional food court offering into some sort of street food outlet. I mean, during this, we've seen the fall of some major high street restaurant chains, and they could have been the sort of figurehead restaurants in these food courts. So we've been doing a lot more consultancy work with those type of clients to be able to look at bringing street food into those locations. So whilst we're not running events and what would have been hosting a now deemed a mass gathering, we are looking to work with different sites and look at how we can safely and responsibly bring people back in to these locations in a distanced manner and making sure it's safe for everybody to do so. So from our side of things, we've diversified our business that way, but we've seen some really, really good diversification from the traders that we work with as well. So very quickly, I think the first out of the block to recognise that a delivery service or sort of a click and collect kind of service was needed. The guys who implemented that the quickest seem to have been doing the most well. That makes sense. So yeah, they've when they've been traditionally doing a street food outfit, we've been talking about doing a click and collect service or delivery, obviously supported by the delivery apps like Deliveroo or Uber Eats, Just Eat and the like. We've seen a big rise in digital involvement as well. So there's a lot of e-commerce plugins to allow you to be able to adapt your website so customers can order directly from you, because there are some very large sort of fees associated with the delivery apps. Deliveroo would take the delivery charge and 30% of the meal value. So you could be putting on a £10 meal, and the actual the restaurant itself should be receiving a little under £5 of that £10 in some cases, which is a hell of a lot. So yeah, the diversity of that has been quite interesting. We've seen take-home kits, pizza traders providing a pizza dough, tomato sauce, and grated mozzarella to do your own pizza at home. Or we've seen others who've done dishes which have been pre-cooked and then for you to warm up in the microwave or in the oven then afterwards. So that has the traders who've done that, we've seen some really ingenuity from that, and that's also been fueled by the Feed the NHS campaign as well. I'm not sure there's many traders who haven't pitched up in a NHS car park to be able to provide key workers with worthwhile sustenance whilst it's been needed, and I think that's very admirable for all of those to have been involved in that. Yeah,
definitely. I've seen a number of the local restaurants, cafes near where I live, doing things like free meals for the NHS, doing free meals delivery service to vulnerable people on certain days of the week, and that's certainly very admirable. And when we come back out to this, I think people have seen the reaction from these small businesses. And hopefully they'll reap the rewards then, because people will stay loyal to them.
Yeah, completely. And I think even more could have been done from the larger chains, the larger brands. I think there's one thing offering a free refill or a go large on your coffee if you're an NHS worker from some of the bigger brands, but that doesn't cut it. As you said, if your local community cafe or restaurant is able to provide meals for those in need during this time, as I said, it should pay dividends from a business perspective in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And the take-home kits, I've had a few of them myself. And if anyone listening is going to get a pizza one, give you a quick word of warning: don't put the pizza dough directly on your wired rack in the oven. Because it will fall through.
I can only imagine what mess that's made. Yeah, I haven't actually taken up any of those take-home kits, apart from a do-it-yourself cocktail mix, which, as you can see, is a running theme from beyond me there. We've our local pizza place does absolutely incredible pizza. You can't get a slot on a Friday or Saturday for the next few weeks, which is obviously changed from kind of phone up, I'll order a pizza please, yes, it'll be ready in half an hour, or delivery. You're phoning up now and they're giving you a delivery slot. Okay, your pizza will be available at 8:45 or whatever, and they're being booked up now in 2 weeks, possibly 3 weeks in advance. So yeah, you can see the shift towards using these local businesses, which is great.
Yeah, and you touched on there is that they've sort of changed their process there, where as before it may be you phone up and you say, oh, it might be half an hour, it might be an hour, and then you're not sure when it's going to turn up. And not just in the food industry, but in other industries, I've seen a lot of businesses now looking at processes and systems, because a lot of people it's been forced on them the way they change, the way they work.
Yeah.
And that change has made them look at their systems and processes, make them slicker, make them more efficient. And then ultimately, that means you're providing a better service for your customers across the board.
Yeah, I think just using the example of the pizza takeaway there is, it's uncertain times for any small business owner. If they're going to embark on even turning the oven on and making a batch of pizza dough, that's going to cost money. And in which case you need to know how you're going to get your return from that, even if it's on such a small scale. You know what your overheads are going to be. You want to sort of fix those and understand where those are going to be. So if you know you're going to be able to do 100 pizzas for each night, then you'll do 100 pizzas, and these will be your delivery times. And so yeah, minimizing wastage, giving an assessment on business like that, again, can only be beneficial.
Absolutely, and it's forcing more businesses as well, not forcing, but a lot again to understand their numbers are better. Because when you know that you can only make a certain amount, then it forces you to look at your margin, because it becomes very, very obvious then if your margin is too small. And then that will help them out in the future then, even when things start to ease. I know we spoke briefly before this because one of my mates has set up a bakery business doing old school flapjacks. A bit of a plug for the Whisk and Dagger if anyone wants to have a look at them on social media. I told him I'd have to do it. And you gave me a bit of advice on what a new business to the sector would need to do to get everything in place in order to be able to attend these food festivals. If you want to give us a bit of information on that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the first thing is to make sure you're fully compliant from a food hygiene perspective, and then also from a business insurance perspective, so you are safely and legally able to trade. And then, looking at outreach of how to get out into the event circuit, and there's a variety of different channels. I did mention the use of NCAS, the National Catering Association, which we are members of under the branch of Street Food Alliance members. I would feel that would be an invaluable step towards anyone starting up with this. It's a nationwide trade association which has got about 8,500 mobile traders on their books, and they can provide the support for businesses starting out. So from every aspect of kind of the full spectrum of the business, they can assist you with, and they're very helpful when it comes to support over the phone as well. To have a friendly voice on the other end of the line, I think, is invaluable for traders. As to whether events will be going on now, we're hanging around with potential for the tail end of the summer. I mean, there's an opportunity to start looking at Christmas markets maybe, but a lot of the bookings for some of the larger events certainly take place the year before the actual event. So to get into the event side of things, you certainly want to be reaching out to people autumn to winter time for 2021 trading. And I think the industry is bolstering up wherever possible the confirmation of dates and bookings and paying deposits to be able to ensure that there is a season next year and they have the bookings that they need. From an event organisation perspective, we are trying our utmost. If an event has been postponed until 2021, we want to have that date penned in with the local authority to ensure that we are able to put that event on in 2021, and giving the traders who have applied to trade with us the security of knowing that that event should hopefully still take place.
Yeah, that's cool. And you mentioned there then potentially looking at the tail end of this year for some events. Now, I know that you can't give exact dates, like you haven't got a back channel to the government, just like I haven't got it to the Treasury. So I suppose the question on a lot of people's minds is, how likely is it that we'll see festivals this year?
And the answer is, I don't know. With every intention and best wishes that events will still go ahead this year, we don't know. We're still waiting for the news from the government, just like everybody else is. The kind of devolution with the Welsh government and us being slightly behind the announcements of the English government, I think there's obviously a cautious approach to it, but we've only seen articles in the papers over the last 24 hours. 50 of Wales's largest tourism attractions have penned a letter to the Welsh government asking for a roadmap laying out how things will get better. our events are in Ceredigion Council in Aberystwyth, Pembrokeshire Council with Milford Haven, Tenby, Swansea Council with Swansea Street Food Festival, and South and West Wales and tourism resorts are screaming out for tourism to come back, trade to come back, events to happen. Pembrokeshire's lost the long course weekend, Ironman, pretty much every county show which was scheduled to go ahead has been cancelled for this summer. Folly Farm talking about their plight of how they're going to survive this. It seems crazy. So I think there does need to be some direction which needs to happen and things to be clear. But we're holding out just as everyone else is for Mark Drakeford's next announcement on the 18th of June. Yeah,
absolutely. Like any business decision, it's the uncertainty which causes issues, isn't it? It's that not knowing. So I know it is. In a slight defence of what they're doing, trying to stay neutral. It's because this is new. They don't know how the infection rate's going to move and how the R rate's going to move. So it's I can imagine it is very difficult to give an exact roadmap, but just an indication as to where they see things going, and dates would be absolutely priceless for the industry.
It's interesting because running events on either side of the bridge, speaking to other councils in England, one of the councils I spoke to the other day said that their infection rate, their R rate, has increased almost back up to 1 again. So if there are lockdowns to take place, there should be consideration for regional lockdowns rather than sort of blanket lockdowns again, which again, figures announced today, there's the biggest fall in the UK economy almost on record, for the last quarter, and that can't continue. But we can't be playing with people's health and the health of the public.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we spoke about it, but we've spoken about this. If there is to be festivals taking place before some form of cure or vaccine is available, and social distancing has to be maintained, how different will those festivals look compared to what we've been used to, and what sort of measures will you be putting in place?
Yeah, I mean, one of the joys of attending a food festival, or in our instance a street food festival, is the atmosphere, the music playing, the wafts of food in the air, and enjoying a nice cold pint with your friends in close quarters. How we address each one of those issues in a safe way has been a consideration for us since this all started. There's a number of sort of implications that we would put in place in order to how we feel would be to sort of safely and responsibly operate this event, which would be looking at containing the site as to a general festival entrance, kind of with a festival operation with one entrance or one exit, whereas prior to that you've been able to enter our events completely of your own free will, walk in, walk out, and monitoring the capacity of people on site at any one time. Looking at possibly a one-way system, everybody has to walk clockwise around the site. But even then, just as we've seen in supermarkets, people don't stick to that. A lot of this comes down to people's common sense and how it's self-policed. One of the questions the council come back with is, well, how are you going to monitor social distancing? Well, the same way Asda's monitors social distancing when we all stand 2 meters apart in the car park waiting to go in. It's self-policing by people who've got a bit of common sense and accept it's the responsibility of everyone to make sure we're okay from this. But yeah, there's other sort of procedures that we've been putting in place, from sanitation stations throughout the event, on entrance and exit, increasing the number of personnel to make sure everything's cleaned, and obviously strong use of coronavirus killing antibacterial spray, which is sort of a trade standard, but it's making sure that measures like that are in place. Even with this, I rushed to buy a temperature gun from Nisbet, of all places, but they're 80 quid each, because you couldn't buy one underneath 80 quid online without a 3-week charge. And even if we're considering, doing temperature readings of people's foreheads to make it safe for them to enter the event, there hasn't been a stone unturned, or my head's been whirring lying in bed thinking about how we're going to address these things, and there's been a number of solutions which we've come up with. So I'm just hoping these things can still go ahead, but not at the detriment of why we all go there, which is to socialise, to eat good food, and have a nice time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm certainly hoping myself that something will be able to take place this year. But obviously,
Yeah.
with the precautions in place, and obviously you've thought about this deeply, and I'm sure that when they do eventually happen, you'll have everything in place to make sure that people are staying safe.
That's going to be the foremost of our communication with this is that yes, the event is taking place, but these are the measures that have been put in place to ensure it's safe and responsible for people to attend. I don't think people have been scared off from this. We're talking the 2 meter rule. We're talking about that being reduced. I'm not crossing the road to avoid someone, but we are giving people a wide berth on the pavement. But I don't think people have been scared into thinking that this is the way it's only ever going to be, and we're not going to stand shoulder to shoulder to people ever again, because I don't feel that has been the case in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way that sort of people have reacted, it's surprising how quick you adapt and things become normal.
Yes.
Even when it's my missus said to me the other day, she goes, I don't know why, but even when it's me and you in the house, for some reason I still feel like I should
I think that's something about you, mate, rather than distancing.
Yeah, I think I need to sort myself out a bit if my own missus doesn't want to stand close.
Try taking a shower, mate. That might help.
On so I think we've covered pretty much everything. Just finishing on that funny note. Is there anything else that you think is important for people to know?
No, not really. I mean, the biggest question from a business perspective was, will we actually survive this? I think there is, light at the end of, this long tunnel that everybody's been on. And I just hope it's looking at positivity and sort of further development for the future. And I think, there's a famous quote saying, a disaster should never be wasted. And I really feel that is still the case. And only from this can only come opportunity. And it's time to grab that opportunity and roll with it and see where this goes. I hate the term new normal. I'm not prepared to accept a new normal. Let's just get back to normal in the safest way possible.
Yeah, and I heard a quote the other day, someone saying that external event plus reaction equals outcome. So the external event, is outside of our control, but the reaction to it is entirely within our control, and that will have a massive influence on what the outcome is of that issue.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for joining me today.
No worries, Jamie. Thank you.
Guys, anyone listening, follow Street Food Warehouse on all social media platforms. There we go. And thanks for joining me, and I'll see you later.